안녕하세요. 사람사랑유학원 대표 이승원입니다. 이번은 지금 네 번째 시간이죠. 샌앤드루스 메디슨 관련돼 가지고 저희 샌앤드루스에서 제 헤드분이시거든요. 그래서 헤드분이신 오인 씨를 모시고 샌앤드루스 메디슨 파운데이션에 대해서 설명을 좀 드리도록 하겠습니다. 샌앤드루스는 좀 특별하죠. 왜 가장 먼저 파운데이션을 제공했던 학교고요. 저희 학생들이 처음에 시작을 했던 것은 2008년이고 실제로 샌앤드루스 졸업하고 현직 의사분도 있고요. 매일 사실은 조인하는 저희 현직 의사분 중에 지금 의사가 돼가지고 트레이닝 닥터죠. 트레이닝 닥터가 돼가지고 지금 세미나 하신 분이 또 그 설명을 좀 해드리겠습니다. 그리고 일단은 오늘 오인 씨가 대표분께서 이런 설명을 해드리고 그 다음에 추가로 저희가 이 부분에 대해서는 블로그 링크라든지 한글로 설명해 드리는 부분들이 있으니까 그 부분 참조하시고요. 무엇보다도 저한테 연락을 주시면 학교에 대해서 잘 설명을 해드리도록 하겠습니다. Okay, so Owen, so you can start. So you can introduce yourself and then you can start now.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much, Suna, for the introduction, and 안녕하세요 to everyone who's here. So my name's Eoin Jordan. I'm the director of the International Education Institute at University of St Andrews. And just to explain why I'm here talking to you about medicine at St Andrews. So within the International Education Institute, we run a range of international foundation programs for medicine students. And for students who've been to a Korean local high school and been through the Korean education system, this is the route through which you would normally access a medicine degree at University of St Andrews. So that's why I'm the person here speaking to you rather than someone from the School of Medicine. And so let me start off by just briefly pointing out that the photo you can see on the slide there, that is a photo of the town of St Andrews. As you can see from the photo, it's a seaside town, it's a small town, and it's a place really where community is very important. And I think that's something that I'll come back to during the presentation. But that's something that's very important to our programs in the International Education Institute, that we focus on having a strong, small community of learners who can support each other and who are supported by the teaching staff that we have. So if I move on. So just what I'm going to talk about really today is medicine at University of St Andrews. And in particular, I'll start off by talking about pre-degree programs, the pre-degree programs that we run in the International Education Institute, but also talk a bit about study in the School of Medicine when you are here. So we offer a medicine degree, and I think I'll come back to this later again, but really one of the attractive things about studying medicine at St Andrews is the history of the place, but also the excellent facilities that we have for studying medicine. So I'll also come back to this slide at the end, but this is intended to give you an overview of all the different routes into a medicine degree program. So in this table, you can see there are 3 pre-degree programs, which are the first 3 rows here. And then the bottom row shows the undergraduate medicine degree program. So you would take one of these 3 programs listed in the top 3 rows. And then when you've completed that, you would move on to this undergraduate program if you have been to a local Korean high school. Students who have, for example, studied at an international school, maybe taking international baccalaureate or other qualifications similar to that, may apply directly to the undergraduate medicine program, which is at the bottom row here. So just to start with the bottom here, the undergraduate program. So the medicine degree at St Andrews, it is a 6-year program in total of study, and that is a 3-year medical degree at University of St Andrews, which leads to a Bachelor of Science in Medicine, and then a follow-on 3 years where you would be doing hospital placements and other aspects of kind of more practical focused study. And that is often students go to Manchester for those 3 years, although there are other options there as well, as you can see on the list here. So the total program time of undergraduate study is 6 years, and then following that you would move on to do your foundation years and start to practice as a doctor. If you went to a local Korean high school and you wish to apply for medicine, you would be unable to apply directly for this undergraduate medicine program, and you would need to take one of our 3 pre-degree medicine programs listed here. If you've taken a Korean high school qualification, you can choose any of these 3. And the path that's most commonly taken would be the the 3rd one down here, the one that says Medical Sciences International Pre-Med, September start. So this is a 1 academic year program, so 2 semesters of study, and it focuses on some academic content teaching in chemistry and biology in particular. It also has a focus on medical ethics, as well as foundational academic and English language skills too, to help students with their studies. You can see here, I'll just talk about this because it's probably most relevant to people here. The entry requirements for this would be that students need an Ielts score of 6.5 with 6 in each sub-score, and they also need to have taken UCAT before the program. As I'll mention later, the UCAT score required, that changes each year depending on what a competitive score is judged to be. And there are options for students who have taken the UCAT, which is the medical admissions exam that almost all medical schools will ask students to take. And if a student has narrowly missed that required level, there will be the option to take that again the following year. I'll just briefly mention then the top 2 rows. These are this is our extended international pre-med program. So the 3rd row is international pre-med, that's 1 year or 2 semesters. The extended international pre-med, which has a January and a September start date, this is a 4-semester program over 2 academic years. So whether you start in January or September, it will go over 2 academic years and will cover 4 semesters of study. So students from some countries only have that option to move on to a medical degree because of how the high school level of subjects like chemistry, but in particular, has been judged. But we also allow that as an option for students from countries like South Korea. You know, you can, if you wish, do the 1-year program, but some students sometimes would like to opt to give themselves a better preparation before they actually start their medicine degree. And you can see what the different requirements for these programs are. Basically, for the extended international pre-med, the first year has a stronger focus on science subjects and academic English and academic skills. And then there's more of a focus then on medicine, medical ethics, and specifically biology and chemistry relevant to medicine in the 2nd year, the second set of 2 semesters on the program. So that was an overview of some of the ways you can access a medical degree, but let me just skim through some of the reasons why you might be interested in University of St Andrews for any subject, but also including medicine. So I think the things that make St Andrews special is 3 Ps here: people, place, and position. So it's a very international place. I showed you the picture of the town on the first slide, and you can see it's a very small town, but it's also a very international town. So within the university, around 45% of the students come from outside of the UK, and the majority of the town really consists of the university. So we have around 10,000 students, and then of course staff as well, who are also quite international. And the population of the town itself is around 15 to 20,000 people, depending on the time of year. So you can see that it's a town that's really dominated by the university, and it's also a very international place. And just interestingly, the university was set up over 600 years ago in 1413. So it was Scotland's first university, the third oldest university in the UK as well, after Oxford and Cambridge. But it was set up by scholars at that time from across Europe. So really, from the very founding of the university, this has been an international place where people from lots of different countries mix together and share ideas. I hope you might have also got a sense from the photo initially that we have lots of scenic historical buildings. It's a very safe, clean town. It's easy to get around. Everything you might want is within walking distance. We do have some students who don't like walking and would prefer to get a taxi, even very short distances, but there really is no need to do that. Everything you need within St Andrews is within a short walk. And the final P here to talk about position, and in this case position in rankings, is that in the most recent UK rankings, in the recent 2022 Good University Guide, we for the first time ever in the domestic UK rankings, we ranked first in the UK. And this is the first time that any university other than Oxford and Cambridge has ranked in this position. So that's something we're very happy and proud about. If you look at the UK domestic rankings, the other well-known ones as well, The Guardian and the Times and Sunday Times, and there's one other as well. But within all of them, we're in the top 4 and have been in the top 4 for 5-6 years every year. Within those rankings as well, the School of Medicine ranks 8 overall within the UK. So again, it is a sort of well-ranked medical school within the UK, and came top for student satisfaction in terms of the student experience that students get studying at St Andrews. So just a couple of shots as well. I've been telling you it's a very sort of scenic place. This is a photo of one of the beaches in St Andrews, the East Sands. So you can see some of the historical cathedral ruins in the background. And you can see also we've got some nice beaches and seaside here. And just to talk a little bit about one of the traditions that that exists in St Andrews and has done for hundreds of years. One of them is that students in their red gowns, they do a pier walk on the pier that you can see actually at the end of this photo here. They do this after starting the new semester each year. They all parade up and down the pier. There's bagpipe players. It's a very big occasion each year. And this is just one of many different historical traditions that have been carried forward over long times, in some cases hundreds of years, for students who are studying in St Andrews. And just to give you a flavour again of, this is the sort of town centre. So it's a very sort of historical looking town centre, but it also does include, you know, a wide variety of restaurants, shops, everything that you might need for your day-to-day life. And another example of just one of the quad areas. So this is an area where there's the School of Divinity, Psychology, and some other schools. And there's a nice sort of grass area in the middle there. Students often sit out, have a picnic, and enjoy themselves here. So my focus in the next part of this presentation will be on why you might want to do a pre-degree medicine program at University of St Andrews. So the first thing to note is that we offer our own pre-degree medicine programs. These are delivered within the university, and they're tailored specifically to prepare international students for a medical degree at University of St Andrews, but also, while not tailored to the same extent, tailored to help students in any medical degree in the UK. So I think this differs from, for example, other options students may consider if they want to study medicine could be, for example, doing some A-levels and taking the required A-level subjects, and then using that to go on to study medicine. But I think what we offer with our medicine pre-degree programs is a program of study that is much more tailored and designed to help students succeed when studying medicine, not just studying science subjects. So for example, if you took A-levels in biology, chemistry, maths or physics or something like that, that may be an option some students consider. But the difference for our students would be they're getting also input on biology and chemistry that's relevant to medicine, as well as a focus on things like medical ethics, patient communication, and other skills that are going to be helpful when they actually go on to study on the undergraduate medicine degree. So just so actually, let me just pause there a minute before talking about this slide, because I can see there's a question from Claire Choi. So thank you very much for the question. So does the extended course offer UCAT lesson? So we do offer some resources to support students in taking UCAT, but this is also not a central focus of the core modules that you take, but we do offer some support and guidance in how to take UCAT during the program. The pre-degree medicine programs, actually, sorry, I should, the statistic I have here about progression rates, we do have quite high progression rates. And this statistic here, actually 85%, this is for all of our pre-degree programs across all subjects. So around 85% of the students who take all of our pre-degree programs move on to degree programs at University of St Andrews. Of the 15% who don't, some of those, it is because they haven't managed to achieve the grades that they need, and we support them in looking for other study destinations. And other students also may have had a change of direction and they wish to study a different subject. So they've met the progression requirements, but they've decided to go elsewhere. But the majority do progress on to degree programs at University of St Andrews. The progression rates onto medicine are slightly lower than this. So the statistic I have here is 74% of our students over the past couple of years who are on pre-degree medicine programs have moved on to medicine at University of St Andrews. So again, it's slightly lower than this overall average, but it's still a very high percentage of the students who take the programs who move on to medicine at St Andrews. Some of those who don't also go on to take medicine elsewhere afterwards, even if they don't move on to do that at St Andrews.
Owen,
Yeah.
is 85% is including pre-degree program, some like pathway to medicine and then medicine program altogether? Or just
so 85% statistic, that includes all of our subjects, not just medicine. So including science subjects, arts, humanities. So we have pre-degree programs across all of those subjects. But actually for medicine, it is 74% is our progression rate onto the medicine at St Andrews. Of the the students who don't progress to St Andrews, there are quite a few who do progress to do medicine elsewhere. So we've had students going to UCLan, University of Central Lancashire, studying in Ireland as well. So there are other places where students have passed our program, and I should say 100% of the students in the last couple of years have passed the program at a minimal level, but they haven't all met the progression requirements to do medicine at University of St Andrews. And so some of those students who passed but didn't meet the progression requirements at St Andrews have gone on to study medicine at other institutions as well.
So what main reasons who didn't meet the entry requirement? What is the main reason? It's an interview or some science subject?
Our experience has been that there are various reasons, but typically there have been some cases where students have arrived, started studying, and have just decided that medicine is not what they want to do. They have, in some cases, some of those students who didn't progress have gone on to study, for example, chemistry at St Andrews. They've gone in a different direction. There are students who've struggled with the study load. So I think the sort of personal problems also account for some of those students as well. And I think that in particular, in terms of the subjects that students study, biology, there's a biology module students need to take that some of them find quite challenging. And sometimes that has been the reason they haven't been able to progress.
How about the interview?
The multiple mini interviews. Actually, the majority of we have had students who haven't passed the interviews, but the vast majority of the students do pass and do well on the interviews. That hasn't been a big reason why students haven't progressed. I would say the main reasons are to do with sort of personal problems, perhaps, and then also where students have struggled to get a required mark on one of their academic subjects. Particularly biology has been the one that students have found most challenging.
Okay. So by the way, how many places do we have for medicine foundation program?
So that is an interesting question, because we aim to, across each cohort, we aim to have roughly sort of 20 to 25 students. University of St Andrews for medicine has a very strange and unique position. So it's one of the oldest medical schools in the UK, but until recently, it has only been allowed by law to offer the first half of a medical degree program, and then students go on to another institution for the final 3 years, as I explained earlier. And because of that arrangement, there has been no cap for the university on numbers. So overall, the School of Medicine aimed to have sort of an intake of 30 to 40 students in total each year.
Yeah, also good
but
news.
they don't have a cap in the same way that some other institutions do. That's the case at present, but that is likely to change in the future, because recently there's been a change in the law which now allows St Andrews to offer a full medical degree. So so we are not limited at present in the same way as perhaps some other institutions.
Yeah. So normally when I work with St Andrews, so February, it's much too late to apply for medicine foundation. So so I just because some of my students needed some pre-foundation program, medicine foundation program, like a science or something. So and then they need to apply for St Andrews Medicine Foundation program. So students like this, so they might apply your scores after they reach the right level and then apply for medicine foundation.
Yes, I mean, yeah. So I guess if we see a well-qualified candidate, we are able to give that candidate consideration. I would say at almost any point in the cycle. It is obviously, there may be situations where we're concerned that there are too many students on a program and we would sort of close recruitment, but in general, because we don't have the same exact cap as perhaps some other institutions do, there is a little more flexibility with that, provided that we feel the student is capable of succeeding.
Well, it's very good news.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. 제가 잠깐만 뭐 한글로 좀 얘기해드리면 사실은 지금 다른 학교들은 영국의 의대들은 캡을 가지고 있거든요. 7.5% 왜 이런 캡을 가지고 있는데 사실 이 얘기를 제가 작년에 좀 듣긴 했거든요. 노 캡이라고 해서 더 이상 이제 뭐 학생 수를 제한하고 20명에서 25명만 받고 그 학생만 의대에 들어갈 수 있는 이런 됐는데 지금 다른 룰을 지금 정부에서 세인앤드류스에서는 적용을 했다고 해요. 그래서 세인앤드류스에서는 메디슨을 제한 없이 받을 수 있는 위치에 있다라고 얘기해요. 그래서 지금 30명에서 40명 정도 받을 수 있고, 그다음에 뭐 전에는 2월, 3월 뭐 이 정도는 반드시 마감이 됐었는데 1월에, 12월에 된 적도 있고요. 하지만 지금은 그 이후에도 학생 수가 좀 더 있어서 학생을 더 받을 수 있어서 그 이후에도 지원이 가능하다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 그래서 이 부분은 계속 제가 업데이트를 해드리면서 그 웹사이트 공지를 해드리면서 언제 마감된다 이런 얘기를 좀 업데이트를 해드리겠습니다. 그래서 준비가 됐을 때 지원하시면 될 것 같습니다. Okay, yeah.
Okay, would you like me as well, Suno, do you want me to pause more regularly? Or shall I just keep going? Maybe you can just stop me if you want to add something extra in.
Yeah, you can keep going and then I can stop.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so just to talk then about the pre-medicine programs. So we have quite high progression rates. We have a mix of subject-specific content, so both biology, chemistry, but with a focus on medicine, as well as things like medical ethics, combined with English for academic purposes teaching too. We have small class sizes, so typically these are not bigger than 16. Sometimes they're smaller as well. We run a personal tutorial system for our students. So this is something extra over and above what an undergraduate student would get. We allocate each student their own personal tutor, and 2 times each semester they have a compulsory meeting with that tutor for about 20 minutes, where there's specific areas that the personal tutor will be checking on with them as they go through. The first one, for example, would be about just settling in. Does the student know how are they settling in okay? Are they confident in what they're doing? But as we go through the programs, the personal tutor is there to guide students through different choices they might need to make as they go through the program. We also have quite an international student body. So our pre-med, international pre-med and extended international pre-med students, they are mixed in together for many events, also with our whole international foundation cohort. And we have around 30 to 40 different nationalities represented in that group each year. And that's a group of around 80 to 100 students each year, typically. And a final attractive thing about the program is that students are guaranteed accommodation. And I will show you what that looks like in just a minute. So most of our students stay in this accommodation block. It's called David Russell Apartments. You don't have to stay there. You have a choice. There are other options available, but this has been a popular choice for our foundation students. It's a short walk from the building that we teach in, and also from the science schools as well in St. Andrews. It's also very, as you can see, it's quite a modern complex, and it's set up so that each flat that students are in, they have their own bedroom with their own ensuite bathroom that goes with that, and 5 bedrooms together share a kitchen area and sort of living area too. So generally our students have found this to be a good place both for convenience, but also for social reasons, and being able to meet other foundation and undergraduate students too. So this is just a bit of kind of repetition here of some of these things. So we have 2 different types of programs. So extended international pre-med, as I mentioned before, which is a 4-semester program starting in either January or September, or the International Pre-Med is a 2-semester, so 1 academic year program starting in September only. And you can see that the extended International Pre-Med, it includes in the first 2 semesters more focus on kind of developing science knowledge before you basically go on to do the final year, which is very similar to the 1-year International Pre-Med program. So those, if you're on the extended International Pre-Med, you sort of join together with the International Pre-Med students for the final year of the program. And so I mentioned before about medical ethics and patient communications, but also one thing we do invest a lot of work in is preparing for the MMI. That's multiple mini interviews. And Suno, this is what you were asking about before. I think one of the reasons we have a very good success rate on the multiple mini interviews for admission to medicine is because we do invest in really preparing the students well for these. We also run our own mock MMIs before the actual ones that students will take. And I think that has usually helped students to prepare very well for these. So in terms of our entry requirements, so whether it is the International Pre-Med or the Extended International Pre-Med, we're looking for grades of roughly sort of 80% or equivalent with strong grades in science subjects. In particular, we're interested in chemistry and biology. And within that, in particular, we're interested in seeing that you're good at chemistry, because chemistry is really the key to success on your medicine program. So that's really a sort of indicative, that's a general indication of the sorts of grades we look for. But within that, we would want to see that you are strong in sciences and particularly in chemistry. The different Ielts scores here that show the English language requirements. So the 6 with 5.5 in each subskill, that is for the Extended International Pre-Med, and 6.5 with 6 in each subskill, that is for the International Pre-Med, the 1-year program. As well as that, we look for a good academic reference from a teacher at school, for example, and a strong personal statement. Now, what do I mean by a strong personal statement? So what we want to see in the personal statement is, firstly, to be convinced that you really want to study medicine. Studying medicine, it's a long program. It's a tough program, and the career of being a doctor is also a demanding career. We really want to see some evidence that that you've thought about your career, your future career choices, and that you really want to study medicine. Because what we don't want to do is to take on students who are not sure about what they want to study, and then who decide actually medicine isn't for them after embarking and starting on a program. The other thing that we want to see in the personal statement is that you understand what studying medicine at St Andrews is about, what you can do. So I'll talk a little bit about that later, but for example, St Andrews is one of the few universities in the UK that you can do full body dissection. So in anatomy classes, students work with full cadavers, so dead bodies, to learn about the anatomy of the human body. That's something that most other medical schools don't offer. There's also a very strong focus on patient communication, so communicating with patients too. So we would want to see that you understand why studying medicine at St Andrews is different to other institutions. So we want to be confident that you actually know what you're signing up for. So really, those are, I think, the two main things, that we can see that you're committed to medicine, and also that you understand what the program consists of in St Andrews. So that's what I mean by a strong personal statement. So I should add here as well that we interview all offer holders for our pre-med programs, so international pre-med or extended international pre-med. So an interview is part of our selection process for all of those pre-medicine programs. And students who are doing the one-year international pre-med program, they must take UCAT before they start in September. So UCAT is the medicine admissions exam that's used across the UK and also elsewhere in some cases. But as mentioned before, if a student doesn't quite get the score they need, there will be another chance for them to do that again the following year. But we would want, yep.
So it's some students who are not able to apply for medicine foundation.
Yes.
It's IB and the A-level students, they cannot get another chance by doing medicine foundation.
Yes. That's a good question. So across all of our international foundation programs, all of our pre-degree programs, the university and our decision is that these are designed for students who had no chance to apply directly for undergraduate study. So if a student has taken IB or A levels, and then we would not normally consider them for one of our international foundation programs, including the international pre-meds. If there are sometimes situations where, for example, I'm aware that there are some schools where students have studied the IB and the School of Medicine ask for, I think, a certain number of science subjects at a higher level. And the school doesn't offer that. So in that circumstance, the student had no opportunity to meet the normal undergraduate entry requirements. And so we would consider a student like that for our foundation programs. But if the student had, for example, taken A levels in biology, chemistry, maths, but just didn't get the grades they need for admission to undergraduate medicine, we would not be able to consider those students for our pre-med programs.
Also, we have encountered some students who already done part of university program, like in chemistry, so 1 or 2 years. So, do you consider for your medicine foundation?
So again, if a student's already studied at university, particularly if they've already studied at university in the UK, we normally would not consider them. But there are always exceptions. I mean, I say that because we often see, or we sometimes see, students who have had a kind of complicated educational background. There are various reasons why, they've changed location or place during their education. And we would consider individual circumstances sometimes for those students. But I think the general point is, if a student has already studied chemistry at university level, for example, it doesn't really make sense for them to go back and do a foundation program, if they're already studying at a level which is at undergraduate level. So we would consider, individual cases, but in general, if a student had the opportunity to meet the direct entry requirements for undergraduate study, or if they're already studying at university level, we probably would not admit them onto our pre-degree programs.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay. So lastly, how about I have quite a number of students inquired about the medicine. It's from Canada. So they have a Korean passport, but they completed Canadian high school diploma. So in this case, do you also consider medicine foundation? Because a Canadian high school is qualified for direct entry.
Yeah, so in that case, if the student took Canadian high school qualification, they should apply for direct entry to undergraduate medicine in that situation.
So you don't consider for medicine foundation?
No, I mean, in general, so in general, our decision will be based on the educational background of the student rather than the passport of the student. So, you know, if the student completed all of their education in Canada, then they should, we would, and that is a qualification that's accepted for undergraduate study, then we would advise them to apply for undergraduate study.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right, so some of this we'll just emphasize and repeat some of the points we talked about earlier, but what do you need to apply? So strong science grades, especially chemistry and biology, but especially chemistry. The personal statement that shows us that you're really committed to medicine and that you understand what the medicine program at St Andrews is like. And you can see there's some tips here. Actually, this slide was created by my colleague, Deborah, who reviews most of the medicine applications normally. So confirming your passion, evidencing why you're interested in medicine. So give examples of things that can show your commitment to medicine, and just generally show us that you have the skills and abilities that are needed. One other thing I should point out here is that to get started on an application, you don't need your Ielts score and you don't need your academic reference. Those can come later. We will consider applications that come in with a transcript and a personal statement. That's really the key. Those are the key parts of the application. If after doing an interview, we wish to make an offer, that offer would be conditional on a student submitting their English language test score later on and the academic reference later on. So the English language test score and the academic reference, they are things that we check afterwards. You don't necessarily have to have those at the point that you apply for the program. So some other things about being a pre-med student, an international pre-med student. So if you're on our programs, you are a fully matriculated student at the university, which means you have the same rights and access to resources and facilities as any other student. Generally, you would be spending sort of quite a lot of time studying in class, but also doing prep and group work outside of class too. The other thing I should note is that while medicine students and international pre-med students are very busy, we do encourage them to take advantage of the many different sports and other clubs and societies that are available at St Andrews. So we definitely encourage an approach of healthy body, healthy mind, and also to ensure that students have social opportunities to meet students who have similar interests to them. So you can see it says here that there are 196 different societies, student societies, focusing on all sorts of different areas. There is a Korean society, for example, but also, you know, societies that focus on everything from chess to ping pong to all sorts of other activities, board games. There's a whole range of different things there. So, you know, it would be hard to imagine that you can't find something that's of interest to you. And also there's a wide range of sports facilities. We have a fairly newly built sports center with a very modern and well-used gym too. And we strongly encourage students to engage with sport and as a way of kind of getting exercise and also meeting other people too. So you can see from the picture here, there's people from a whole wide range of different sports activities here, from surfing through to sort of other water sports, football, rugby, swimming, martial arts, taekwondo, cycling. There's a huge range of different options available. in terms of the facilities, the sports facilities are very good, both for sort of water sports and so on, but also field sports like football. In fact, we've had quite big name football teams coming to train up in St Andrews. Previously, Manchester United and Barcelona have come to St Andrews to do summer football training. Doesn't happen every year, but these bigger teams do come every so often. One thing to note here, and I'm not going to go through the full details of this for the extended international pre-med programs, but we talked about progression rates earlier, and I wanted to give a bit more detail about what students need to do to progress from our international pre-med program onto the undergraduate medicine degree. So this is for the one-year program, and this shows you, and this information is on the website, you can freely access that. So the requirements students have to move on to undergraduate medicine is that they need to achieve an average grade of 11 or above at first sitting, which means that without taking a reassessment, if they don't meet that initially, they need to achieve that across these 3 modules. So Foundations for Medicine 1, Foundations for Medicine 2, and Human Biology. So these 3 modules are all delivered within the International Education Institute, and students need to achieve a grade of 11 or higher out of 20 on average across those 3 modules. There are 3 further modules where students need to achieve a grade of 12 or higher in each of these individual modules. So these are delivered in other schools within the university. So Biology 1, Introductory Inorganic and Physical Chemistry, and then Organic and Biological Chemistry 1. So these 3 modules, one of which is in the School of Biology, 2 of which are in the School of Chemistry, students need to achieve a grade of 12 or higher. Our experience is that the area where students have found most challenging is the biology module. And we are trying to put in place as much support as we can to help students on that. I think part of the challenge is also that it's in their first semester. So we are trying to do as much as we can to work and support students in succeeding on that module. There are some other requirements too. So as we talked about the UCAT earlier, students need a competitive score in the UCAT. So I think the last cycle that was 2,400 points, but that can change each year depending on what a competitive score is rated to be. They need to do satisfactorily, they need to do well on the multiple mini interviews. Although, as I think I mentioned before, that is not an area where many of our students have struggled. And they'll need to have an Ielts score of 7 overall with 7 in each sub-skill. So these are the 3 additional requirements, as well as the performance on the modules that students take. So I'm going to move on now and just talk a little bit about why medicine, undergraduate medicine at St Andrews is an attractive option. So you can see here that the history of medicine at St Andrews is long. So since the university was founded, medicine has been taught in some form. And there's a lot of focus on actual sort of practical skills for clinical practice, and focusing on not just doctors, but also preparing medical practitioners, health psychologists, and researchers. So there are other programs that focus on this, particularly at postgraduate level. So this is some photos of the medicine building, and I show you this just to let you know that although St Andrews is a very historical town, there are some more modern parts to this as well. The medicine building is very recently built. It's really got completely up-to-date equipment and facilities. This is another photo from inside the building. And one of the sort of distinctive features of medicine at St Andrews, as I mentioned before, is that students do full body dissections in their anatomy classes. So this is just one example of anatomy where students are working, I think, doing a dissection here, possibly. So this is also within the School of Medicine building. They also have simulated wards. So these are set up to be kind of mock wards where students practice patient interactions. There's various bits of medical equipment there where students can sort of go through role playing, if you like, different scenarios they will need to deal with. There's also a strong focus in the programs on communication. There's a lot, I think, that the School of Medicine, particularly in St Andrews, emphasizes about good communication being the key to good medicine. If you can't understand the complaints, the problems that your patients are expressing, then you're very unlikely to be able to treat them. And also how a doctor or a medical professional communicates with a patient can very strongly influence that patient's mindset and openness and so on as well. So there's a lot of focus and work that's done on medical communication here. Okay, so actually, I've just noticed as well, there's a question in the chat, so I'll just pause there too to address that. If I fail to progress to medicine, is it possible to progress to another major? That is possible. It will depend on the grades you get in different subjects, but we have students who have done that in the past. For example, moving on to chemistry or biology would be examples of that. I should say, this is not guaranteed, and it would really depend on the grades you have and the degree of demand for those degree programs in that particular year. But the question is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Okay, so I'm just going back now. I think we're nearly at the end of the set of slides. So this again was that summary table of the different options for medicine or entering onto a medicine degree. So at the bottom, that was the direct entry to undergraduate medicine if you've taken IB or A levels. Then we have the 1-year international pre-med program in medical sciences starting in September. This would be the most common option for a student coming through a Korean high school who wanted to study medicine at St Andrews. And then the extended international pre-med programs with both January and September starts. These are also options for a student who's been through Korean high school, but it involves 4 semesters of study rather than 2 semesters on the international pre-med. So it would be suitable for somebody who's looking for more and additional preparation to ensure that they succeed later on. It's more semesters of study than would be absolutely necessary to progress onto a medical degree. So for more information, I've put up here our International Foundation Program's email address. There's a link here also to our Foundation Program's web pages. So we have quite detailed information on these program web pages about everything from dates to fees to progression requirements to subject content to the modules you take. If you are interested, I'd really encourage you to have a look through the program pages there. And if there are any questions, to send us an email and we will get back to you as soon as possible. I'll put this, I have this email address here rather than my personal one, because this email address, there is always someone checking it. So if you send to this address, it will always be picked up and somebody will be able to get back to you. And I'll share these slides. I think I have shared these slides with you already, Suno, right?
Yeah.
So if anyone wants them, please feel free to pass them on. Okay. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. 안녕하세요. 저희 오늘 세미나 도움이 되셨길 바라고요. 그러면 지금 이제 이 영상은 제가 업로드를 해드리고 또 설명을 해드리도록 하겠습니다. Thank you very much, Eoin. So we have a meeting today. So when it says 5:06, but your time is 9:05. So we have an assistant. Okay.
So that sounds good. How should I join the meetings?
Yeah. So so you are going to use this Zoom link.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just wait here, shall I?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Well, let me say thank you, and thank you. I can see a comment there from Claire Choi, so thank you very much, Claire, for the questions throughout as well. Very good questions.
오케이. 그러면 지금 이걸로 마치고요. 그다음에 저희 잠시만요. 마치겠습니다.